Okay, let's dive right into this explainer because today we are unpacking a story where a terrifying, centuries-old village curse collides head-on with a modern-day scientific quest. I want you to imagine this. On one side, you have an ancient folklore death squad that has literally paralyzed a rural community with absolute fear. And on the other side, you've got ambitious lab researchers from the city determined to extract a mythical cure. It is the ultimate high-stakes clash of superstition and science, and it is a wild ride. To really understand the stakes here, we have to start with a chilling warning. This comes directly from a terrified father in the village of Berhampur. He's pleading with his son, Madan. You see, Madan just wanted to go out and meet his friends, but his father warned him that it was a Saturday night. And in Berhampur, Saturday nights belong to a living nightmare, one that the locals believe in with absolute, unshakable certainty. The father's instructions were incredibly specific. Hide, do not look, and wait until the chanting fades away. Because if you lay eyes on them, you don't survive. Period. So what exactly was Madan's father so terrified of? Well, according to village lore, they are known as the Nishir Molo. This is essentially a supernatural death squad made up of 4 terrifying men who roam the dark paths carrying a coffin on their shoulders. Young Madan, unfortunately, brushed this off as just some second-century superstition. He walked out into the dark forest anyway. But soon, he heard heavy footsteps and this rhythmic, terrifying chant. Bam, bam, bush, bam, bam, bush. He tried to hide in the bushes, but human curiosity got the better of him. He couldn't resist looking. Tragically, when a search party went out later that night, they found Madan dead near a banyan tree, and his face was frozen in unspeakable horror. Now, to fully grasp what's happening in the story, we actually have to take a sharp pivot in the source material. We're going to jump 400 years forward, leaving the ancient lore of Berhampur behind, and step directly into a bustling, sterile laboratory in modern Delhi. Here, we meet 2 young researchers, Meghna and Ishita. They aren't dealing with coffins or curses. Their world is all test tubes, deadlines, and a very demanding boss named Professor Jaidev, who is pressuring them hard to deliver a specific medical antidote. It's that classic trope, right? The rational world of science is completely unaware that it's about to slam into ancient, deadly superstition. It really highlights that deeply human tendency to just dismiss what we don't understand, the hubris of modern science brushing off the profound power of deeply rooted folklore. Feeling the pressure from Professor Jaidev, Ishita pulls out an old book of folklore and myths, and she pitches this wild idea to Meghna. What if they extract a legendary liquid called the Mrityunjay Amrit? Ancient texts describe this stuff as literally the nectar of immortality. According to Ishita's book, this nectar is actually a green liquid that drips from a very specific tree in the forest, but it only happens on full moon nights. Ishita wants to track down this tree, test the liquid, and use it for their lab work. Now, as you'd expect, Meghna initially thinks this is complete nonsense. That is, until she looks at the illustration of the tree in the book. This is where things get incredibly weird, and Meghna's sudden agreement starts to make a lot of sense. You see, Meghna has been suffering from these vivid, recurring dreams. In her sleep, she's lost in a dark, foggy forest exactly 400 years in the past. She's being chased by a massive, monstrous bird, and right as she's about to be caught, she crashes into a tree. But not just any tree, a tree dripping with green water. When Ishita shows her that folklore book, Meghna recognizes the exact same tree from her subconscious. It's this undeniable supernatural coincidence. The moment she sees it, the deal is sealed. They absolutely have to find this tree. So the girls pack their bags and hop on a 5-hour bus ride from the city, heading deep into the rural, mountainous region where Berhampur is located. But the true horror actually begins the very second Ishita and Meghna cross the main gates into the village. It's like the environment violently rejects them. The bright sun instantly hides behind thick clouds, the temperature plummets, and this fierce, unnatural windstorm kicks up out of nowhere. I mean, even the locals are totally shocked by how sudden and bizarre the weather change is. When they arrive in the village square, they are greeted by the Mukhya, the village chief. And naturally, he wants to know why 2 young women from the city are visiting his remote home. I just love the dark irony of Ishita's lie here. She tells him, "We're here to write about 5 villages for our studies." Here they are, claiming to be doing safe, boring academic research, completely oblivious to the fact that they've just walked into a village harboring a highly active, lethal curse. But the chief totally buys it, and he kindly invites them to stay at his home. However, the village itself clearly knows they are there. The foreshadowing in the source material here is just brilliant. The exact moment the girls step foot inside the chief's house, a lamp burning in the household temple mysteriously blows out. And this isn't just some random draft. At that precise second, the village priest's arty lamp over in the main temple also extinguishes. The priest is deeply disturbed by this. He looks up and actually witnesses dark, swirling shadows roaming the sky. The arrival of these modern researchers has unquestionably triggered a massive spiritual disturbance. While they are settling in, the girls meet the chief's son, Anuj. Trying to play it cool and subtly find the forest in the tree, they ask him if there are any interesting historical sites nearby. Anuj mentions the 400-year-old palace of Raja Surajban. As soon as Meghna hears that name, and especially later when she actually gets near the place, she is struck by this profound, deeply unsettling sense of déjà vu. She feels in her bones like she has been to this ancient, sealed-off palace before. Driven by this crazy curiosity and their need to investigate, they come up with a highly dangerous plan. They decide to wait until exactly midnight to make sure the chief and his wife are dead asleep. Then they sneak out with Anuj into the howling, dusty wind and literally break into the sealed palace through an old side window. Now, as the audience, we know exactly what they are risking here, right? Roaming the pass of Burhanpur and the dead of night is practically sending out an invitation to the Nishir Molo. Let's track this timeline, because as the clock strikes midnight, the tension escalates so fast. At 12 a.m., our trio is inside the dark palace, and Meghna is eerily recognizing every single corridor. But just 15 minutes later, at 12:15 a.m., the sleeping villagers are suddenly jolted awake by a familiar, terrifying sound echoing through the streets. By 12:30 a.m., the village priest bursts into the chief's room in an absolute, sheer panic. The nightmare is back. The Nishir Molo, who had been dormant for years, have suddenly awoken. Now, while the teenagers are exploring the palace and the village is waking up in pure terror, the source material shifts our focus to the forest. Out on the edge of the woods, you've got these two village men, Sampat and Kapta, who are foolishly sitting outside playing a game of cards. They are super annoyed by the sudden freezing windstorm, but Kapta is losing the game, so he stubbornly refuses to pack up and go home. So there they are, entirely exposed in literally the worst possible place you could be. And then, cutting right through that howling wind, they hear it. The exact same sound that doomed young Madan at the very start of our explainer. Bam, bam, bash, bam, bam, bash. It's getting louder. It is getting closer. The danger is right on top of them now, and Sampat and Kapta are just frozen in place as four figures emerge from the blinding dust storm. We now have two massive climaxes happening at the exact same second, about to violently collide. Inside the palace, Meghna, Ishita, and Anuj suddenly hear the sound of heavy boots pacing the corridor right outside their room, and then the terrifying, loud creak of an ancient door opening. At that exact same moment, out in the forest, the wind dies down just enough for Sampat and Kapta to see the four Nishir Molo standing right in front of them, staring down at the gamblers with glowing, blood-red eyes. And then the ultimate horror unfolds. The four men with the glowing red eyes lower the coffin they've been carrying on their shoulders. Right in front of these terrified gamblers, the lid of the mysterious coffin slowly starts to open. We don't see what's inside, but whatever it is so unspeakably horrifying that Sampat and Kapta let out a blood-curdling scream. A scream so loud and so filled with agony that it echoes completely out of the forest and is heard by every single trembling villager locked inside their homes. Which brings us to the final massive cliffhanger of this story. Who or what is actually inside that coffin? Who just walked through that door in the ancient palace? And what is Meghna's true, deep connection to this 400-year-old nightmare and the legendary Mrityunjay Amrit? The rational world of modern science and the terrifying reality of ancient horror have violently crashed together, and we are left completely desperate to find out what happens next. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this breakdown sparked your curiosity as much as it did mine.